Japan Makes Me Scared, a podcast to the chilling realm of Japanese horror stories. My name is Junpei, and I will invite you to the mysterious world of Kaidan, exploring spine-tingling experiences that have haunted Japan. Konbanwa minasan. Welcome back to another episode of Japan Makes Me Scared. I'm Junpei, your host, and I'm going to share various horror, scary stories of Kaidan in this podcast. Today, I will start with a completely different topic. I know it's going to sound a bit sudden, but do you speak French? I asked that because I thought it was time to introduce my wife. Actually, I'm not the only one who operates this podcast project. My wife also hosts a podcast, Japan Fait Me Peur, which is basically a French version of Japan Makes Me Scared. By the way, I hope my French pronunciation was fine. I know I usually sound terrible. Anyway, we kind of cooperate for querying stories, editing, and managing our own website. I will leave the link to her podcast in the description, so if some of you happen to be French speakers, please check it out. I strongly recommend that as a family. Whew. Okay, one mission's been completed, so shall we move on to the storytelling? Here's today's story. Episode 6, Gorilla in a Toilet. This story is originally from Sakura Fukatsu. She's a Kaidan storyteller who has shown up recently since a couple years ago. The story was from one of her schoolmates when she was at university. So from here, I will use I as Sakura herself. What made you scared when you were a child? That's a question that I have always asked since my days at university. Personally, I was scared of many things. I was scared of ghosts and monsters, and when I heard a frog crying on a summer night, I said to my mum like, I'm scared that I hear someone's voice coming out of the darkness. And when I ate watermelons and other fruits, I was scared because I believed what my grandma told me. If you swallow the seeds, they will sprout from your stomach. Talking a little bit more about my background, I was born in Ibaraki Prefecture, but I moved to Kyoto as I got into university there. Then I thought it would be interesting to find out if there were any regional differences, so I started asking people that question. I think this was in the winter time when I was probably around 20, more or less. My uni friends invited me to a hotpot party at their place. Turned out, it was just a bunch of girls, and we were all having a good time chatting about some random topics for the night. Then suddenly, I came up with that question. I asked them, when you were little, were you particularly scared of something? Things got a lot more exciting than I had expected. One girl said, oh yeah, I was scared of clowns. And another said, oh, I was scared of Kuchisake Onna, which is a lady with a split mouth. one of the most famous urban legends in Japan. And there was another girl called Saya. She said, "In my case, I was scared of toilet." As a general response, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Sometimes I was scared of going there alone at night." Or, "The story of Hanako-san is scary, isn't it?" But Saya said, "No, it's not like that. It's a different type of story." Then she told us this story. Saya's parents' house was in Niigata Prefecture, which is located in the northern part of Japan, and her family ran a company at home. The house was a 3-story building with a company office on the first floor and a living space on the second and third floors. This story happened in the house when she was a little girl. She continued, "The house has toilets on the first and the second floor. I didn't have any problem with the one on the second floor, but I was scared to go to the first floor toilet. You know, when I opened the door of the first floor toilet and went in alone, there was a toilet bowl in front and a ventilation fan above it. The fan had several blades, and through the gap, there's always a gorilla staring at me." Wait, what? A gorilla? Gorilla like animal gorilla? We were seriously listening to Saya's story up to this point, but we were surprised by the sudden appearance of the gorilla. "What do you mean? A gorilla?" "Yeah, it was a gorilla. He had a black face and black fingers, and he was looking at me through the fan with his black fingers inserting the gap between blades. It was terrifying. Since it was like that, whenever I went to the toilet, that gorilla was always looking at me. So whenever I went there, I just switched on the fan right away. When the fan started working, the gorilla was gone. That's how I used to go to the toilet every time." She said she had tried to tell her mother and sister about it many times, but they always just dismissed it as, "You must have a bad dream or something." What did we do after she finished her story? Actually, we laughed a lot. A white gorilla in Japan, especially in cold region like Niigata? That doesn't make sense. One of the girls even imitated the gorilla and slapped her chest. In the meantime, Saya started to get a bit mild and joined us for this, and we all spent the rest of the night giggling and laughing at the story. A few weeks later, I received a call from Saya at night. Once I pick up, she started like this, sounding a bit tense. "Sakura, I'm scared of my parents' house now." I wondered what was wrong and asked her in detail. At that time, Saya had come back to her parents' house for the first time in a while. When talking to her family, she suddenly remembered speaking about the gorilla at the pot party the other night. So she asked her mum, "Hey mum, when I was about 5 years old, do you remember that I was seeing a gorilla in the toilet on the first floor?" And her mum, it seemed to have forgotten that story. "A gorilla? What are you talking about?" "I told you, a gorilla in the toilet, through the ventilation fan, with its black face and fingers between the blades, staring at me." Don't you remember I used to tell this story so many times? But her mom's reaction was similar to ours at the pot party. The mom said, "That's ridiculous. You said the gorilla was looking with a black face and black fingers. That was like..." Then she stopped in the middle and said, "Oh, that's The mother's face got pale. Saya asked her mum, "Mom, what's wrong?" But she didn't answer and seemed to be thinking about something with her arms crossed. "Hey, just tell me what's going on." When she asked her in a stronger tone, she opened her mouth heavily. "Actually, there's something I didn't tell you about. It's just because I didn't think it was necessary." Her mom's story was like this. Their house was built about 20 years ago. But before this house, there was a huge traditional Japanese house where 3 families lived on the property. The price of the land was quite high at the time because of the good location and land area size. One day, there was a fire, and it burned down the entire house and all the families there. After that, the land was cleared and no one would buy it afterward. With these circumstances, apparently, the price of the land was getting very low. So Papa and I thought, maybe we could buy it, because we wouldn't care about this kind of, So we bought this land and built this house. So, what you saw in the toilet when you were little, Saya, you might have thought it was a gorilla, but maybe it wasn't. I'm sure you all could guess that now. The thing she used to see in the toilet with the black face and fingers. Saya said at the end of the call to me, "Sakura, maybe what I saw back then was a person who got burnt black." Here is one thing. I'd like you all to think back once more to the things that frightened you when you were young. If there's something that you didn't care about back then, but now you feel odd or bizarre, there may be a terrible truth behind that, and you're just not aware of it. Oh, Shimai, thank you very much for listening to the story. How are you finding it? Hope it was interesting to you as well. To me, this Kaidan story is like a roller coaster. When it started off, there was a kind of soft atmosphere, wasn't it? Like, you can laugh as they were making fun of gorilla. But as the story went on, things got darker and darker, and poof, you found who the gorilla actually was in the end. Actually, in Kaidan world, it is very common that when you ask somebody if they have any scary stories or horror experiences, sometimes they said like, "I don't have it, but..." Or, "Maybe it won't be that scary, but..." When a story starts with something like this, it is more likely to become the scariest at the end. By the way, if you like this kind of plot twist in Kaidan stories, please let me know. I've got a Discord channel where you can share your thoughts and theories. And of course, I'll be there as well. I'm gonna leave the link in the description So please join and enjoy interaction if you would. This podcast, Japan Makes Me Scared, is available on almost all popular podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or Amazon Music. And also, if you push the follow button on the app of your choice. First of all, for me, it will be a huge support and motivation. And for you, you will not miss notifications for the release of future episodes. So please consider following my podcast as well. Alright, we're getting close to the end, so let me say one thing. ありがとうございます again for listening to my podcast, Japan Makes Me Scared, and sayonara for more chills and thrills next time. Bye!